Anything for open forum? Nope. Nothing? Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As always, town meeting is June 11th at Westford Academy, starting at the time it's starting at. Rain date to follow on that Sunday. Additionally, the tree inventory, there was a email, I guess it didn't make it into the, there was an email, there's a survey out for the municipality vulnerability grant doing the tree and invasive species inventory around town. So it is available as a link on the town's website. Great, please do it.
You did it too?
For the department. And
is everybody familiar with that? We got a grant for, the town got a grant of like $70,000, $80,000 or something to do the first stage is come up with an inventory of tree species and invasive species in town. And they had an open meeting, a Zoom meeting, a virtual one, about, must be 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And I was kind of disappointed. They've already decided exactly what properties are going to be reviewed, and essentially the only properties that are going to be reviewed are in probably about maybe 20% of the town, right-of-way along roads. That's it. No conservation land, no forestry land, no selectmen land, no school department land, no water department land, only right-of-ways along about 20% of our roads, and that's it. And minimal amount of interest in invasive species. It's mostly about tree inventories. Really disappointed. I don't know how all that got decided ahead of us before. You know, I tried to throw in all of the conservation land and the forestry land.
Well, I don't know if you can now that he's written the grant, you know, what they've gotten monies for, whether they're
Never
limited.
saw anything about the grant. It was all verbal that they were given.
Yeah, and I have another idea too. I think that down the road, if you come up with the right proposals, that CPA funds could be used to do something like this. We've never done it before, but it doesn't mean that we can't do things that are missing on a bigger scale under open space. I just think it can. So I put that out, Jim, as a possibility we can investigate. I told Jeff already too.
Anything else, Matt?
that is all.
That's all? Anything from the audience for open forum? If not, then we'll go to our first agenda item, which is request to install plaque at the Emmett Conservation Land. Rose O'Donnell?
Rose O'Donnell for Road.
Yep.
So here's the story. We were trail clearing. I'm the trail steward, and we were in the Neshoba land and the Emmett Conservation Land. And someone, we were next to the place where the plaque is that says Richard Emmett, blah, blah, blah. And someone said, see that rock in there? Dick used to sit on that rock and watch his birds. And I'm like, oh, so let's clear it. So we cleared all around it. So now you can see. So there's the plaque rock, like that's the monument. And then there's this other rock that's probably 10 feet away.
Sitting rock.
The sitting rock. And so I thought, oh, way ahead of me.
There it is.
It just, yeah.
There's the picture. It's the one on the left. And he was such a special person that I thought it would be good for more people to know that he used to sit on that rock and watch his birds. So I proposed that we put a plaque, or I put a plaque, on the rock that says, Dick Emmett sat on this rock to watch his birds and think. And I went with Matt, and we looked at it, and we decided the place for the plaque will be on the right-hand side. That's the left-hand side.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Yeah, because it's flat, and it faces the monument rock. And if you put it on the front, people probably wouldn't sit, and we want people to sit on it. So that's what I'm proposing, and I'll carry it across.
Guys all good with this?
Sounds great.
Really nice.
It's a great spot. I actually saw Dick sitting on there many times. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a great guy. That's all I can say. Motion to allow this?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rose.
Shall I let you know as we proceed, or can you just?
Yeah, just,
go?
just go ahead, and when you're done, send us a picture.
Yeah.
keep me in the loop, just in the event somebody's like, somebody's out drilling into the rock, and I'm just.
Does anybody know who can install such a thing? Besides, what's his name?
Our side, it's
Garside's
our-
son.
that's
Yeah,
where I'd
Doug
start.
Garside, Al's grandson.
He's the only one I've dealt with.
Yeah.
That's where I'd start.
I've dealt with him too, okay. All right, thank
Okay,
you.
Rose.
Thanks
Yeah.
a lot.
Now it's the grandson, I think, right?
You could do minutes?
You want to do the minutes, April 27th?
There's a couple.
You guys have time to go through them all? Margaret, have
I
corrections?
didn't have any trouble.
There was one editorial, and then there was one for 25 Buckboard Drive where it talked about, commission's concern was stuff on the conservation restriction, and I just said, well, let's, a little bit more words, an adjacent parcel under conservation restriction, so it's very clear that it was stuff done off-site, as well as in violation of the conservation restriction. And I sent that to Matt earlier.
That's somebody has it.
Yeah.
Okay, you got that?
I do. I'll make the
Anything else?
changes.
Jim, you good? Everybody's good? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to our 7:10, which is a continuation public hearing and issue order of conditions, Town of Westford, 0 and 12 North Main Street, 3341799. Did they have a chance to go through these?
Yep,
Here you-
and,
Yep.
Mr. McManus is.
Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul McManus from Ecotech, representing the town as the applicant on this. I'm really here just to answer any questions that you might have. Staff was good enough to send a draft order. I had responded and suggested a couple of very minor tweaks.
If you could just list them just for the record, because we got that late after the packet went out, so.
Go for it.
Just, if possible. I can pull it up.
I don't know that I made a copy of it. Shoot. There was one I recall was, the order as drafted had listed, excavation limited to 4 feet for test pits. There was a reference in there that we had done test pits to 4 feet, but it's actually the excavation for the work, was limited to 4 feet. So we just requested that clarification.
What's the other one?
Yeah,
Matt, Jim was pointing, Matt, do you have it? Because Jim was pointing it out on the screen, you weren't looking.
The paragraph I think you're talking about.
Yeah, they're right here at the top, test pits excavated. And just trying to pull up the,
Okay, so you got that.
Yeah, I apologize.
You just want to say maximum depth of excavation is 4 feet?
4 feet,
Yes,
period.
that's just looking for that clarification.
Okay,
I had a couple of questions on it too.
yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of soils taken out and disposed of, right?
Correct.
And this doesn't, I don't think this says any, unless I missed it, didn't say anything about where it's gonna be disposed of and what the disposal, where the disposal records go. Usually when there's, hazardous materials that are taken out, you get some kind of a
Certificate?
process that follows.
bill of lading.
Well, it's a
yeah.
manifest that they gotta follow.
Yeah,
A bill of lading
tells
is
where
what they
it came
call
from,
it.
where it
Yeah.
goes to, who accepted it, where it is today.
Do we collect this?
Yeah, we can, if I might
Someone in
suggest,
town ought to.
the easiest way to do that is this whole process is permitted under the Mass Contingency Plan,
Mhm.
and there'd be a completion report under the MCP, which is required under those regulations to describe everything that happened in sampling and include all that paperwork.
Yep.
Probably the best thing to do would be, if we just make sure the commission gets a copy of that complete report,
Okay.
and that will have
Everything
all
in it.
of
Yep, that'll be fine, that'll work.
And I could put that with, the prior to completion, requesting the certificate of compliance, that shall be, submitted to the commission.
Okay, that's a great idea. That'll be a check and
This
balance.
goes over all of the removal of samples of soil as you're excavating for purposes of analysis and testing, but it doesn't say what happens to the majority of the soils that get taken out.
But the state will wanna know where they sent those soils to as part of,
So we get a,
the
we wanna
remedial
know
effort.
As the town of Westford, we want to know too.
Well, you will know in the report.
You get the report.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's all I had.
That's it? Are we good? You all set? You good? everything?
yeah, that's what it was. The commission finds that a waiver of the, 25-foot, bottom of page 10A. The commission finds that a waiver for the 25-foot no disturb zone, Westford Wetlands Bylaw 1.3, is requested and approved. I think that was the,
Yes, it was saying, with reference to it, but not a specific statement that it was approved, which obviously we would need to do the work.
Okay.
So were we gonna put in the stuff about the report?
He said in the certificate of
the,
compliance.
yeah, I
piece.
think actually,
I wanted to miss-
condition 43.
He wants it in the orders?
Yeah, I do. I wanna know that we're gonna get it.
Condition 43, any waste materials generated by the project shall be disposed of at a proper disposal or recycling facility. The final completion report,
Include where?
yeah, shall be provided to the commission,
Perfect.
documenting all this,
Okay.
documenting this
Okay.
information.
Yep,
Thanks.
that
Yep.
works.
Okay,
Okay, motion to approve the order of conditions as amended.
so moved,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to close the public hearing.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? We're good to go.
Thank you very much.
Yep,
Thank
thank you.
Matthew, if you don't mind, if you send the order to me, it's probably the most reliable way to get it recorded.
Certainly, I'll get it out tomorrow.
Thank you, whenever you get to it, but that way it won't get lost by someone who doesn't understand it.
Yes. I understand, and we'll pass that around right now, so that I
Thank
don't
you very
forget.
much.
Couple minutes.
You must have the legal notice.
I do.
Okay.
Go ahead. We're moving on to 7:15, which is the public hearing for 110 Place LLC, Littleton right away, between Tabnack Road and 19 Littleton Road.
Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetland bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 25th, 2022, at 7:15 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the notice of intent application of P. Charles Emmanuel for pedestrian improvements, including construction of a sidewalk and minor drainage improvements, portions of which are within bordering vegetated wetlands and bordering land subject to flooding, within the right-of-way along Littleton Road, Route 110, between the Tadmuck Road, Littleton Road intersection and the 110 Place condominiums at 19 Littleton Road. Assessors map 2340.
Okay.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Katie Enright. I'm the project engineer from Howard Stein Hudson that worked on the design of this sidewalk. You'll probably remember we were here quite some time ago for 110 Place, which was where the old junkyard was. And there are 16 townhomes there today. There was an extensive restoration area on that project, if you can all remember. And one of the comments that we received from planning board was that they wanted to see us connect the sidewalk where those were going to be residences there now. There's a sidewalk that was constructed from Tadmuck, like a couple hundred feet down the road, which was very strange if you'd been out there, and it just stops. It just ends. So it's about 950 linear feet from there to get to 110 Place. At the time of the project, I believed we had spoken to the commission's agent at the time. I believe we might have even come to see you, but it was a long time ago. When we kind of kicked off the design, we've been working on this for a year with MassDOT for a couple different reasons. It's a bit of a unique situation in that in running the sidewalk on the north side of that road, what they did before was they created a sidewalk, they did a vertical granite curb, created a sidewalk, they dumped it off. Not only did they do that, but then they built a guardrail, brand new, on the side of 110 that's in the way of continuing the walk, which is even stranger. Then there's a low point in Littleton Road, and at that low point, the drainage just collects and flows off straight into the wetlands. So when we went out there and looked at extending the sidewalk, it's a little bit more complex because not only do we have to move the new guardrail, there's also a slope down to a wetland, which you see here. This is coming from the Tadmuck side, and an existing culvert that goes under Littleton Road. There's a bike lane that we had to kind of continue to create by bringing the pavement out a little bit. Then to create a vertical granite curb and a 5-foot sidewalk, we're now blocking all that stormwater. And in blocking all that stormwater, you would think, well, okay, we can just put in a catch basin or something, but the elevation is so low of Littleton Road and the elevation is so low of the wetland that we couldn't get the water out conventionally. So MassDOT at first said, we did a device that basically the outlet was a little bit higher than the inlet to get the water out, because that was the only way we could do it. And they didn't like that, and they actually denied our first application. So we've been working with them, and they created this structure, which is unique, working with us at the low point, which is a little bit there further to the right where Matt was pointing. Yeah, you can see the little profile of it there.
The orange button is the pointer.
Oh, okay, there you go. This is kind of the unique structure we created. So we worked back and forth with them on the phone, with their maintenance department, on Zoom, round and round in circles, and came up with this drainage device. So basically what it is a catch basin with a deep sump. But we couldn't get the water out with a rim to invert. So it's attached to a trench drain that runs under the sidewalk and empties into the area adjacent to the wetland. What this does is it allows MassDOT to approve it. They've approved this design finally, but it also allows us to create at least a sump situation here that can be maintained. So some of the sediments are able now to settle out in that catch basin, which then MassDOT has to take care of because it's within their right-of-way. So you see their operation and maintenance plan was included herewith. And then the water basically fills up the catch basin, some of the sediments will settle out, and then the water will run across the trench drain and out adjacent to the wetland. One of the things that MassDOT had us do, if you go back up, Matt, it might be, was they said, well, why can't you put the pipe into the wetland and get lower? And so we actually went out and surveyed this whole area basically to prove to them that we can't get lower. It's actually standing water there. So we can't get any lower. We can't have positive flow out of that pipe if we build a conventional catch basin. And we were able to convince them essentially to do what we're proposing here, which is to not affect the wetland in this area here. We are affecting just slightly, but we're removing material in the floodplain. The floodplain elevation is like literally like right on the edge of the road here at elevation 199, which you'll see on the grading plans later. Might be better, yeah, you can see the wetland impact here too. I didn't talk about this. There's 7 square feet. We couldn't get it out of here, and that's to, essentially this is already a slope from the guardrail down to the wetland where the culvert is, and there's open water here. If we do a 1.5 to 1 slope here, we can just barely make it with a very small impact. So as we go down the plan further, you'll see we created a small replication area a little bit further down. This area, before we move to the next sheet, has a modified rock slope. So one of the things we talked about in the field, I think it was before you, Matt, I think it was still, when Carol was still here, was doing something that just didn't look like ugly riprap on the side there. So we've done a modified fill slope here, which essentially has compost over it and basically looks greenery. So even though it's solid, it has a solid base of riprap, you're not looking at rock because of the 1.5 to 1 slope. So you can see that on the detail sheet. There is a small wetland impact here, which we couldn't avoid. But as we go down Littleton Road towards 110 Place, you'll see we created a little replication area off to the side of the road. So curb, well, bike lane, curb, sidewalk, guardrail in this location being put back. And then as you move further down at the low point, you have this drainage structure here. And then as you move to the next sheet, we kind of get closer to 110 Place. So we keep going, basically just along the edge of the road here, all the way. You can see the wetland here kind of starts to wrap in. This is our property line to our site. And then the giant tree, which we want to try to save as long as possible at the intersection of our driveway and 110 Place. So we had to work a lot with MassDOT on that too, because they wanted us just to chop it down and get rid of it. And Chuck, who's here tonight, fought pretty hard to keep it for now, because it's a beautiful big tree right at the project entry. So we're wrapping the sidewalk around that tree and connecting into the 110 Place sidewalk. If you go to the grading and drainage plans, you can see the sidewalk has been proposed to be ADA, but we did have to do some grading along the side of the road. And there are a few trees that are affected. I believe there's 9 trees in total that we're affecting. Believe it or not, it's pretty clear right adjacent to the road. I know I've received some comments from Matt today about potentially putting trees back. I'm not sure there's an appropriate place to do that within this plan. I wanted to mention to this commission, we actually proposed almost 500 plants on the 110 Place project between the restoration area and the project itself. There's 19 trees that were installed on that project. So I think we've done a pretty significant planting where essentially there wasn't vegetation before. I think it would be hard to place a new tree in such a place here that it wouldn't affect kind of what we're proposing to do, but certainly we can talk about that more. Erosion control on the plans. This is considered a limited project. I guess MassDOT, I usually do private land development projects, but MassDOT and our public infrastructure arm, apparently they have the ability to work essentially in upgrading public roadways. So even though there's a slight increase in impervious here because of this, because it's for safety, because it meets the criteria under a limited project, that's what this project has been proposed under. Just checking my notes to see. Oh, there is a small replication area, which you'll see on the detail sheet. It's only about, well, we're only asking to fill 7 square feet of wetlands. We're proposing 117 square feet of wetlands. And what we've done is asked our wetland scientists who worked on the other project with us to prepare. There's 2 shrubs there and a seed mixture there that will essentially add significantly more than 7 square feet of new wetlands along the side of that roadway where we were able to add it. As you can tell, there's certainly a lot more that goes into this. I am here to answer any questions that you may have.
Carol?
Yeah, I just want to know how many of those oaks, those little oaks that you have marked along there, were coming down along there.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 oaks between 4 and 6 inches.
Do it along 110? Not at all.
Familiar with that, which yeah, it's all
So
wet.
it could only be done inside the project
Yeah.
itself, okay. I hate to see anything come down, especially oaks.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is it's kind of even though it's years after, certainly we were here for the other project, we took that barren wasteland and put almost 500 plants on that area, which is adjacent to the same wetland. So there's been significant work in upgrading.
I get that, but
Yeah.
trees are trees.
I understand, yeah.
So instead of plants, I like trees, so I'm
Yeah.
just putting it out.
Certainly.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've seen with sidewalks around town is roots on adjacent trees tend to buckle the pavement.
Mm-hmm.
Is the concrete sidewalk going to have that same problem over time?
So, well, that's one of the reasons why it doesn't really make sense to kind of cram a tree in between the
Yes.
sidewalk and the edge of wetlands, but we basically, there is a small strip of grading there, and most of the trees are basically right at the wetlands edge, so I don't envision that. This is
Well,
good.
and I was thinking more in terms of the 2 large trees you're protecting.
The one big tree that we are protecting has the potential to. I don't know if any of the roots are bothering. They're not really up above that area now.
No.
So-
The only alternative, if you were concerned about that, we could do a pervious pavement for that one little area and then connect it to the sidewalk.
Well, and it was just more of, I see, we put in sidewalks, we have the trees, and then they don't always get along.
Usually
Yeah.
An older tree like that, of that size, the roots
It's-
are already gone, they're already.
Okay, so they're not gonna be growing extensively. Okay,
They're not
It's not like a
visible at
pine
the
either.
surface.
true.
Where a
They'll
pine
go
hangs
deep.
right around, you see them a lot next to pines, because the pine roots hang at the surface, pretty much.
Okay. And also, is this sidewalk intended to be cleared during the winter after snow events and stuff?
It is, but it's MassDOT's responsibility where it's a
Okay.
MassDOT road.
Okay, but it's, So that was part of the
on.
discussion, and
It's on their inventory, and it would be part of, right, their clearing plan, so when that happens is
Right.
okay,
not sure.
now's the time to ask. That's
Yeah,
a good idea.
absolutely.
Who's gonna police that?
Any other questions from the commission? Any questions from the audience on this application?
Should I stand up?
Yep.
So my name's Nancy Rigby from Hemlock Meadows, the Condominium Association, and I really couldn't follow what she was saying, the drawings and everything, but I heard a lot of referring to the wetlands. Well, the wetlands, I think, according to this piece of paper that I got from the town, it draws out the lot lines, is our property. So I am curious as to how this sidewalk project, drainage, even septic, we never mentioned anything, or I never came to any other meetings regarding that, how that might affect the wetlands that are on our property. I know that our condominium association septic system had to be, I don't know, I'm exaggerating, a quarter or a mile away from the wetlands, pumped uphill, isn't doing well right now. And so if that is the case for us, I'm concerned about those two things, the drainage from the sidewalk as well as the septic from 110 Place, and how that will affect the wetlands on our property.
Well,
And,
the
I don't really have anything specific to say, it's just that we exist and we're just curious.
Well, the 110 Place was, another application, and all that was addressed within that application. So that's not an issue. And the issue here is the sidewalk was always part of the original plan to put in with the planning board, and we knew about that. And it's actually, is it all in the right of way?
It's all within the
It's all
right of
in the
way,
right of way.
right? So it's in the property that's within the right of way for Route 110 and Littleton Road.
So they already had an easement there to be
Yeah.
able to do this.
When you were speaking, you mentioned, it's gonna go into the wetlands, it's at a low point. I just wasn't sure if that was.
The
our property
drainage.
that she-
The
that-
drainage.
But the drainage would be going off into there
There
anyway.
anyways.
The replication area looks like it's just outside the, right-of-way, isn't it?
But that is,
I think Tadmuck Meadows is south of Littleton Road, correct?
That's the,
I think so.
replication area.
Okay,
Yeah.
so all the proposed work is on the north side of Littleton
Correct.
Road.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So is 110 Place, I got a notice about being in a butter. Is it
Right.
the one that's right next to the Neshoba Pizza place? Is that what we're talking about?
no. This is where the junkyard was.
Oh, on the other, across
On the other
street?
side,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. I
Right.
think I might be confusing the two projects, but I wasn't 100% sure. All right.
Okay.
Sorry if I am speaking out
No.
of turn.
No,
But
that's
we
okay.
exist and I
Wouldn't know
wanted to
unless you asked.
on the board, and I'd be remiss if I didn't.
Yeah,
speak
we,
up.
we,
Yeah,
we don't
no,
mind,
that's
you
fine.
wouldn't know if you didn't
We're
ask.
good with that.
Yeah, that's
So it's
true.
perfectly fine that you
Okay.
asked.
All right, well, thank
Let
you.
me
You're welcome.
check that, though. Let me check that. We might have to move that over a little bit. I think you're right.
What's that?
I think it's right on the
Out of the right of
edge.
way.
Replication,
I think it's right on the edge, yep.
just outside.
I might have to just shift that over a little
Well,
bit.
It is on 110
that's,
Place.
it's on 110 Place.
Right, it's on 110 Place property, but it's outside the state right-of-way.
Right.
Yeah, which is fine, because
It's okay by me, but,
But maybe
they're 110 Place. It's their land, so, all right?
yeah, but I don't know what DOT would do with the project.
Well, it's their property, and
Yeah.
they're doing the project, so it's not an issue. Any other questions from the audience in this application? Okay, seeing that we're gonna continue this to our next meeting on June 8th. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good to go.
All right. Can
Thank
I
you
just
very
ask
much.
for, on June 8th, is that, what will happen on June 8th?
Review the draft
Review
special
the order.
conditions.
You don't have to
and
come unless,
if There's any
I just
comments.
wanted to check on procedure. Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
night.
You as
You
well.
as well.
Okay, we're moving on to our 7:30, which is a continuation of a public hearing to discuss draft order conditions for Gravestone Pond.
Nope, continuation.
Five.
Oh, did I miss that?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, I'm
it's
sorry, yeah,
Oakdale,
Reardon
2
Group.
Oakdale Road.
Continue, issue order conditions for
One more.
Reardon Group, LLC. Good thing I'm retiring, I'm screwing up. Jeff, welcome.
Good evening. Jeff Hannaford, representing the applicant for 2 Oakdale Road. At the previous meeting, I presented the plan for the work in the buffer zone, upgrade to a septic system, as well as a water line extension to the property in order to eliminate the subject well. Just an update since we met. The plan that I presented to you, I had revised. You do have the latest plan. That revision was based on a review by the Board of Health. I met with them after I saw you last, and there are no other changes to the plan. They accepted the revisions that I made, so we're ready to move forward with them on the variance.
Commission have any comments on the order?
Nope.
You had some, Jeff had sent me some edits on.
Edits or changes?
More edits in the findings. I think it was more just consistency. And
Yeah, it was minor. I didn't know if the edits had been made, but
no, I hadn't made them. I don't have them from me.
So they're just minor?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a motion to approve the order as
So
amended.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Jeff, thank you.
You're all set.
thank you very much.
Okay, now we'll move on to our 7:30, which is a continuation of a public hearing and discuss draft order of conditions for Gravestone Pond, 834-1666.
Good evening, Shen Wang from Creative Land and Water Engineering. So I sent an email out so my clients couldn't be here. We appreciated Andrew and the commission, effort to resolve this difficult historic issue, as we all know. And so I guess I read through the order of conditions. So it's most of that pretty much standard practice. And so my clients do have concern is we are still in the final stage with the state to get the plan approved. So we know the design is pretty much reviewed and they're good to go, but they still have to go through all the red tapes to get it finalized. That's one. And second is about who is going to take the ownership eventually. So if Mr. Pointer passed away, there's nobody really sustainable to do it. And this is just my professional observation, just share with the commission for your thought. So it's a piece of, beautiful land and it's gem in the town. And I know the town have been put it on as a long recreational area, and the neighborhood is using
What
it.
has this got to do with our order of conditions?
There is one section in
He's
here.
talking about who should ultimately take ownership of the dam. And that's not,
We'd already discussed it, and I think we voted on it, and
yeah,
we
and
had
we
no
didn't want a
interest.
part of it.
No
So-
interest
Let
in
him
taking
be
it.
further
At
to
this
that.
point, the
Give him
town's not
courtesy
gonna
of
take
that.
it on.
Okay, yeah,
But I'm happy to talk about the changes that he made to the order of conditions that we got the email later this afternoon, and maybe, we can talk about those and amend the orders.
yeah, that's
what
fine.
you're here for?
You might
That's
explain
fine.
to them why
I was
you're
not
here.
involved with that part of the
The
ownership.
reason why we have to do this is because I'm leaving the commission, and once I leave the commission, if this isn't approved, then we're gonna have to go through the whole process again, okay? Because there's not 4 board members here that have been
They
here.
were
the whole
ultimately
time.
here through
From
the.
the
This has
day-
been
from
going
the
on for
beginning.
3 years, 3 or
It's
4
three
years.
of us.
5 years, excuse me.
Who else? Were you there?
I have no idea, there's too much noise.
She hasn't
That's
been here.
okay.
Margaret hasn't been here from.
Okay, so it had started before I joined?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I've been here.
So it's just you 3.
So that presents a different problem for you?
Yeah, so we're trying to close this out, so the order conditions can always be amended after the fact.
Yeah, again, I understand the commission's point of view, so I'm just, accept all the changes, I made it here. If the commission determined to issue the order, and that's whatever the way we'll take the course, because I don't, it's not the commission's
No,
responsibility.
he made comments to those draft orders that we received this afternoon.
Correct.
Correct? I reviewed them. So shouldn't we be discussing whether or not we like those changes to the draft orders?
Right, yes.
We could do that.
So what do you think? Jim?
I'm not answering your question, just,
Okay, you got another one, all
right,
right.
other topic.
Other topic. Go ahead, why don't you go
All right.
first, okay?
A couple of things. First, you brought up the issue of recreation. You said it's a recreation gem, I think, or something like that. One of the comments was that it's, recreation is not permitted, it's private property, so you really ought to post the property so that people are discouraged from using it, if that's really the owner's wishes. Right, that was one of the findings.
Yeah, we can discuss, but I know people is kind of using that area, and it was once on the town's website as like.
I don't think the town, maybe the Westford Conservation Trust, but not the Westford Conservation Commission.
Right, yeah, so I was,
Organizations, one is the town and one is
Well, the trail's open to the public,
the trail, but the
Not
pond,
swimming
the
or
pond
anything.
itself,
the pond is not.
private property.
Right, so it ought to be, you ought to post it,
And
mark
actually,
it.
the dam is too.
right. The trail is on the dam, so.
The next question I have is, what's the actual plan? What's the date of the plan? that we're supposed to be
I was not, I had another hearing, so I really didn't bring it to it, so I can get Andrew
was
the
presented
latest.
It was presented at the May 20, I think it was the May 21st meeting, 2021.
All right, because
and I can certainly
because the most recent one on the order of conditions is October of 2020.
On the last.
The last item on the last page.
So that was the same, that's the plan, but
I
it's
don't remember
dated
that plan.
Okay.
And I know I've asked several questions in the intervening 2 years about what kind of controls is this new project going to impose on the water levels? Is it going to be passive controls? In other words, just a spillway?
Yes.
And
Yeah, we had this discussion before,
I know
Jim.
we
It's
have.
just a
I know,
spillway.
and it's never been clarified for me, and I've never seen it.
No, I
on-
thought it was clarified that it was just a spillway.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
it's a spillway.
And what happens to the two pipes?
Well, it will leave it there because it's going to be shut down.
Will they be blocked off, closed off, because they will be, and this has been brought up also, they will bring vandalism if they're left accessible.
No, it's not accessible, it's locked in. The upper level one, can be plugged, but there's no meaning. So it's at the 216.11, so
What's gonna happen to the two pipes?
the two at the lower level is going to be under the water, and then there's a shaft which locked it up, so people cannot get into it, because that's a good emergency dewatering mechanism. So even you design a detention pond these days.
So there's gonna be a padlock on it,
Right,
and that's it.
right.
But what else are you gonna put on it?
Close it off, use a passive,
can't.
a passive
You
system.
can't.
Why not?
Because it's an emergency
Emergency.
access. They have to get in there if they need to.
The pipe isn't gonna be available for, it's gonna get blocked up and clogged.
I don't know.
No,
by
it's
nature.
underwater. It haven't been always be like that. It will
I
be.
don't think so.
It will not be clogged. It's underwater with the trash rack protection for running for almost over 50.
Passive control of the water level, though.
That's
No-
correct.
nobody's gonna have to-
Yeah, under normal
Normal
conditions.
conditions, unless it's an emergency and they
That's
can
right.
open up the bottom.
That's correct. And that's usually when you design these days for detention pond, you're required to do that too, so.
Okay, and then, in your email today, there were several items, I couldn't tell if these were specifically comments against the order of conditions or just other remarks. There's one that you want a favorable opinion, or you've got a generally favorable opinion from the Office of Dam Safety, but that you don't have their approval yet.
That's correct.
Okay, and are they reviewing it?
Yeah, they reviewed it, and then so they coming back, they want us to add a dam break analysis just to demonstrate it will not cause any hazard to the downstream.
Okay, so that'd be an update to the plan, the 2020 plan?
At this point, from just a quick view of it, because of the water, it's lowered almost to half, and I don't think, and with the volume, so I don't think even the dam break is not going to cause a significant hazard.
What is the Office of Dam Safety reviewing now?
They are waiting on that.
No, they don't have anything yet.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, the next one, paragraph 5, you said that the existing in the pond should be removed. Is that It's putting a spillway that'll maintain a certain level.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Paragraph.
Truck go, just let the truck go. Can't hear a thing.
let me see if I
What
can,
way is that, what's the, how many feet?
25 foot wide
No, but what's the,
elevation?
elevation?
Yeah, elevation is 212, 212 or 213, so I,
There will be a pond there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's not gonna go all the way back to where it was
Okay.
before when
Okay.
the water was
The
extremely
the
high.
remark said the pond is, should be removed. That's what I was concerned about, is that it sounded like it was gonna go away completely.
No.
All right, and then the whole paragraph 6, about your opinions that the town should take the ownership, we talked about that. The town's already discussed it, and the Conservation Commission is not interested in accepting it.
okay. No, yeah, I was not involved, maybe I forgot that, or I didn't involve in that.
Right, you
You're
were.
right. You weren't involved.
Yeah.
It sounds more like
So therefore, I'm just from common sense of, as a long term,
We get that, we get that.
appreciate it,
Okay,
Okay.
that's all I had.
okay.
Any other comments from the commission? You realize, Jim, you can't vote on this, anyways.
Right, right. I'd like to get the Officer Dam Safety's assessment of the plan
I'd like to end this,
before we approve it.
and I'd like to end it before Peter leaves.
Can I ask,
Once again, you can't vote on it, Jim.
Yes,
so-
yeah, so we're still waiting for Office of Dam Safety. So
Right.
this could be amended. I mean,
Correct.
right. I think it should be
probably will
passed,
be amended.
passed
So
and then
this is-
amended.
Okay.
We need to put a closure.
Questions from the audience on this application?
I'd prefer if we continue
Yeah,
this to
I'm
the
not
next.
gonna vote on it.
Just, I know people were talking about,
Yeah.
wrapping it up.
You're gonna be here one more time, right?
Yes.
So we'll have your
Next
vote.
meeting.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Yes.
And we'll have a
Okay.
plan for Jim we'll have a physical copy of the
Whatever the
most.
latest update plan is
Yep.
that we're gonna.
Yeah, I will double check and make sure you get the latest, yeah.
Whatever
Okay,
plan.
but we have
Officer
one
Dam
more
Safety-
meeting where our chair will
if
still be
Dam Safety
chair,
approves
otherwise we
one,
won't
that's
have
the
enough to
plan I
vote
wanna
on
see.
this.
Yeah, I understand, yeah, no,
I want you to
that's
be
why
sure.
I made an effort coming here rather than go to another hearing, so
It was the correct choice.
thank you. Yeah, well, we,
You too.
we,
We've been sitting here with this for what, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years?
longer than that, so,
Okay, so can I have a motion to
Time goes
continue this
fast.
to our June 8th meeting?
So move.
All in favor? Aye.
all right, thank you so much.
Very much.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Jim can't vote, but he certainly can have his input.
No, I just,
I'm glad he should.
What do you mean I can't vote?
I mean,
On this particular
on
issue,
the order, but you can discuss.
because you weren't here
You weren't here for
5
the
years
full-
ago.
Whereas
Since 2016?
I'll take a look at the tracking
think I have.
and figure that out for the next meeting, so.
Yeah,
and-
if you are, that's great.
I think I have been, yeah.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. We're going to 7:40 with a discussion of draft enforcement order at 115 Concord Road.
Just what we chatted about.
And name for the
Really?
record, just so.
Okay, for the, Deb Berkman, the listing agent for 115 Concord Road. The sellers were not able to be here, so I can give you an update as to what's transpired since the notice has been received. They received the one from DEP and immediately reached out to a company to get a quote for cleanup. They received that on Friday, and they're in the process of working towards cleaning up.
So we'll, if the commission has any edits to this, we'll issue.
The enforcement order talks about, it only has one date, and that's the date when a restoration plan is gonna be filed, and it's June 22nd. If you've already hired somebody that's gonna be cleaning it up, do they have a restoration plan? Was that the first thing?
They received an estimate, someone was there about 3 weeks ago. The estimate was just received on Friday, I believe.
The estimate would imply that they were estimating what it would cost
What the
to
cleanup-
execute the completion plan.
Correct, but they just received the estimate, so it has not gone any farther than that
Right,
at
but
this
a
point.
completion plan would happen before an estimate, so you'd know what to estimate, right? Like how many cubic yards of soil have to be removed, how much, how deep, that kind of thing. That would be in the restoration plan, and then somebody would give them an estimate for what it would cost to execute the plan.
If the people who went out there to estimate the cost had that, then yes, I don't know. To answer-
We need, that was the only deadline we had in here for whether the enforcement order is being complied with is June 22nd, is that we would have a restoration plan. Page 2 of 6 on the bottom.
Oh, 2 of 6, sorry.
Remember, I was concerned last time that
Right.
that we really can't be imposing any fines, even if we had been inclined to, because there's no deadlines
Yep.
yet. The only deadline in here is the June 22nd date.
Yeah, and so the LSP, that language ends up being, with the notice of responsibility by the Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup, they have 60 days to hire an LSP and perform an evaluation. And that's, you know, that number one, order number one, you know, requiring, you know, the LSP evaluation, characterization of the site, you know, require, you know, and then it goes into a competent professional shall delineate the wetland resource area, provide a plan detailing wetland resource areas on the property, associated buffers, existing conditions, and areas to be restored.
That sounds like a restoration plan, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, so, I can certainly add in, you know, I mean, prior to alteration of any land, you know, within 200 feet of the, you know, so that's prior to any alteration, so that's prior to them, you know, doing any of the work. I can certainly add, you know, I don't know, for number 4, you know, some, you know, 4 months from the date of issuance and may be extended by the commission with written request, at the commission's discretion, if that's, you know, gives the commission a time frame, but also, or gives the.
Well, isn't it gonna be the LSP who's gonna be driving this, who's gonna put together a plan? And as part of that, it's gonna say, you know, this is when it's gonna be
Yes.
executed, and this is when we're gonna be able to take care of this particular aspect of it. So if we put in a time and say 4 months, you know, that may not be, because an LSP is gonna have to put something together, gonna have to submit it to the Bureau of Site Cleanup, someone's gonna have to review it, then it's gonna have to get back to the LSP. Maybe in 4 months, but maybe not.
So,
Meanwhile, you wanna,
Well, if that, essentially what you're saying then is this date, the only date that's in here right now for the restoration plan is really, not really achievable, right?
hard to know, it's in here,
Well, June,
but,
it's 3 weeks from now.
yeah,
at
I'm
the
thinking
stage.
no.
Okay, that's what I would think too, from based on
Yeah.
what you were
okay,
just saying.
I mean,
So we gotta make that date something reasonable.
June, you know, prior to the second July meeting, if that's, I mean, so that's 60 days.
What concerns me is that somebody's already estimated the cost of whatever,
We don't have that.
restoring the site, but there's no restoration plan?
Well, and so the people who came to the site, were they just to evaluate it, to come up with the plan?
Well, it might have
Or-
been just to take away
Yes.
with what they saw.
Somebody had to
you know.
look at it
They
first.
see
Yeah.
Well,
physical
I
things
believe-
that needs to be removed, they're there to
Then they'll
remove
come
it.
up with a
But,
fee.
you know, there's a difference between removal and restoration.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is not a simple
Restoration
project.
requires kind of like what we were looking at earlier tonight with the town. It's like, well, we're gonna remove this soil and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. That's a little different than we got like, you know, 5-gallon pails of something over here and stuff over here, and I know how to get rid of that, so, 2 different things.
Right. I still wanna see a restoration plan, regardless of whether there's an estimate out there or not. Maybe they just gave them a wag, you know.
Aren't they tied together? I mean, before they can give a price, they have to know exactly what they're gonna be doing, so we don't have that
Nothing's
yet.
gonna happen until the LSP has done his plan.
Okay, and we've got it.
Or to the state
Right.
approves it.
Right.
I mean, LSP
Yeah.
can put together whatever they want, but
Okay.
if the state doesn't bless it, it's not
So
gonna happen.
it's all tied to an approved LSP
Okay.
plan.
So the restoration plan, again, 60 days from the date of issuance from the
I think
commission?
that's reasonable.
I mean, if they can't make it, it's because it's still in the process.
Right.
But we can put our own timeline on it.
Okay.
So when are we gonna require a restoration plan filed with us?
60
60 days.
You know, so prior to the second,
Finish, go ahead, 60 days,
60 days, which puts
From-
it about, you know,
July.
from what, from now?
From now.
yeah,
Oh,
from
okay,
the
okay.
date of issuance, yeah.
Okay.
We haven't issued it yet.
Yeah, so I'll do 60 days from tomorrow when
You know,
it's,
and
when
if
it's
they can't
issued.
make that, they'll come and tell us why,
Right, exactly.
because the state hasn't approved it.
Okay,
But it's
Hopefully
happening.
not, they hadn't gotten
But
their
it's
act
hoping.
together and submitted it,
So
because
it'll
that
be-
wouldn't be appropriate.
So on page 2, we'll change the order to July 25th, 2022, for a restoration plan should be filed with the issuing authority on or before.
Works.
Okay.
that's it. Okay. Motion to approve the report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
As amended, right?
Thank you.
As amended with a date. Okay, 7:45, discussion regarding beaver dam at 20 Leland Road.
That's, oh, you're here.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi. Good evening. My name is MJ Lanham, and I prepared a little statement, if it's okay for me to read.
Sure.
My husband Corey and I are homeowners on Leland Road. Our property is a little over 7.5 acres and includes a large tract of wetlands. We've noticed beavers on the small pond on our property going back to when we bought our home in 2013, but we've never been in conflict with them before. This spring, the beavers dammed the creek that exits the pond and drains into a culvert that goes under Leland Road. The dam has roughly tripled the surface area of the pond since mid-April. Water is now crossing property lines, and our neighbors are nervous about the potential for water damage to their well at 22 Leland Road and trees at 34 Leland Road. I reached out to the Central Mass Mosquito Control Project for a site assessment, as beaver mitigation is one of the services that they offer. Katrina Proctor, the group's wetlands project coordinator, came out to do a site assessment last week and recommended that they install a water leveling control device that will lower the level of the pond closer to its historic level while allowing the beaver population to remain intact. As the CMMCP's busy season of spraying for mosquitoes starts after Memorial Day, she cautioned that they will not be able to do the work installing a flow control device until the fall, at which time we plan to apply for a notice of intent if that's what we need. However, the CMMCP can spare the manpower tomorrow and Friday to cut a notch in the dam and lower the level of the pond by a few inches. That will hopefully drain storm water that after last week's downpour is currently encroaching on the back of my neighbor's property at 32 Leland Road. It would also address concerns of the potential for flooding the septic tank at 36 Leland Road, which is on the far side of his property. Lowering the level of the water now would be a temporary measure, as we expect that the beavers will quickly repair the dam. However, it serves a few immediate purposes. The existing level of flooding means that 10 mature maple trees that my neighbor, Sean Prentice, who is here tonight, taps in the spring, are currently sitting in several inches of water, and that puts them at risk for rot. Draining it will also, draining would allow the soil around those trees to dry out a bit. It'll also reduce the habitat for mosquitoes now that mosquito season is upon us, which is why the CMMCP has recommended that we pursue this action. All the abutting neighbors are on board with this plan, although Robert and Marie Stafford at 22 Leland Road were unable to attend tonight because of COVID. We've already applied for a beaver dam breaching permit from the Board of Health and are asking the Conservation Commission to grant us an emergency certificate so that we can conduct this work this week. Thank you for your consideration.
So we're tied to the Board of Health, so we can issue something, but it's tied to the Board of Health.
Yes, we were just advised that we would also want an emergency certificate to show that you were aware
If the
of our
Board of
plan.
Health doesn't approve it, then, you know, our permission's rescinded.
Okay.
We're based off of the Board of Health.
And their concern is gonna be, does the beaver dam causing
Impact to the
threatening
septic, yeah.
systems
Right.
or drinking water wells?
It is not yet, so we consider this sort of an ounce of prevention.
They'll consider that too.
Threatening, I think, is.
Yeah,
They'll consider that.
I'm okay with it if,
too.
you know, pending
Board of
decision on the Board of Health.
So am I.
Okay, so condition it as, you know, pending, emergency, Board of Health emergency
Agreed.
has been
Yeah.
found and issued.
It works.
All right, that works.
I'll issue that tomorrow
Okay.
on behalf of the
So can I
commission.
have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, our last item is an update on 87 Graniteville Road.
To update the commission, and was included in the commission's packet, I was out twice last week, on Tuesday, when the erosion controls were ultimately installed, and the work was being performed for the relocation of the loam piles, and followed up on Thursday, the photos that were included in the commission's packet, after measuring the 100-foot buffer with the property owner. Stakes were installed. The work appeared to be outside, the piles were relocated outside the 100-foot buffer. And I confirmed this afternoon that the disturbed areas within the buffer were hydroseeded with an erosion control mix to stabilize the area. I know the property owners here. We received also other correspondence from the budding property and represented by their brother. If the commission has any questions, both the property owner and the budding property owner.
Any questions from the commission?
No.
No.
So you're satisfied that you're moving in the right direction on this, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Anything else you're going to have to do on NOI?
Yes, there's culverts there that my father put in years ago. The old farmland had from the road all the way down was a little road with open fields. And there's a granite bridge just at the very edge of where we corrected. He had put in culverts further in, 3 little plastic, 6 or 8 inch for water flow, and it's flowing. We looked at it again today. That's something that the board wants me to take out. I would like to think that I could, in talking with Matt, it's only from there to here, probably 10, 15 feet, is just the original brook that was there from years ago that was going through the granite bridge was blocked up somehow. And he put those in. If I pull them out, I'll have overflow and I'll be denied access to my back property for dry land that it was for 100 years in the family this year. So I would like to have the board allow me to work with Matt and open that bridge up, prove it's there so you know it's there, and just go from there to here with a little ditch just to have the water go that way and take those pipes out.
Saying there's a historical stone bridge or something
Yep.
that's there underneath
Let me
that
check
you
it out.
want to demonstrate is there so you have access to property further beyond.
It's a full acre back there. I want access back there for the future.
Have you done that, Matt? Have
You can
walked
show me it's there, it's
Yeah.
fine.
I haven't,
I don't have
I
trouble with
haven't investigated, I can certainly head out with an auger and,
when he,
confirm
let him
that.
check with you and come back and report to us.
Yeah, because you're going to have to show that for anything you want to do in the
No.
future back there.
My question is, why can't the culvert stay there? They're
Well,
plastic.
if you can show that the culvert was installed prior to our local bylaw,
Oh, I don't know, my father, it's got to be back, it's years ago. He originally dug a hole there to put Tommy Cod's in, he was an ice fishing. He moved to Florida in 2002, so.
2002 wasn't before our bylaws, so if he did it in 2002, that was well after our bylaws, so that wouldn't have been a permitted activity.
Okay. I have no problem taking them out, I just want to have access to,
Yeah, well, let
through
Matt
the
go, let
existing.
Matt go out with
Well,
you,
anyways,
check it
He's
out,
going to go out
okay?
and look at it,
Okay.
confirm
And then
that
come back with a
There
recommendation.
was a crossing there, and there was a previous farm road going over there.
and my understanding, working with Matt, we met all the criteria except for that section.
That's fine. That is my judgment.
Okay.
That's good, okay.
Thank
You're welcome.
You want to address the commission?
Now we got,
We have
you
someone
want
at
to
the
say
mic?
something? Correct?
Yeah, you're standing at the mic.
No,
No,
I
no,
don't know.
We're done talking to him.
Just tell us.
Yep.
Representing 83 Graniteville, so I wanted to ask to leave a letter with some documentation on some of the restoration work. Just point out a couple of things, just a couple of quick questions. I know the order had required that debris piles on the other side of the stream be removed, and I'm wondering if that's something that would still be required.
That has occurred.
I'm sorry?
That has occurred. That occurred when the leaf piles and the debris, but that has occurred
On the other side of the street.
on the other side of the crossing in the
And
street.
then the other question I had, Matt, sort of specific to the stabilization of all of the disturbed areas, the new waste piles, you recall there's about 500 or 600 yards of material that needed to be moved out of the buffer. About half of that material was spread within the buffer, and then on top of which it was hydroseeded. The other half of that material was stumps and brush and construction debris, which was built into a new stockpile that runs along the property boundary, which is in some of these pictures here. While that pile is outside the buffer, it is 101 feet away from the wetland, so it's 1 foot outside the buffer. It seems to me, with no erosion control, with no silt fence around the base of that constructed berm, and no soil stabilization on all of that soil itself, there's got to be a few hundred yards of material in that would seem to be a threat, and it would just seem to be a practical thing to require stabilizing that. And you could, and if I can leave these with you, you'll see what I'm speaking of there. So I think those were just the questions that we had, and then
Maybe you can look when you go.
I didn't see any evidence today when I was out of erosion off the pile into the buffer.
Is it fairly level? Is the grade fairly level so that you'd be less likely to see erosion if there was a heavy storm event?
No, I mean, there is a pretty defined toe existing of where.
At the bottom of the new pile?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it, as kind of shown in this photo here, I mean, this is going down. So that stake, there is one stake, that was kind of the corner of, yeah, the corner of the buffer. It continues up in this general vicinity up to around this way. And then kind of, here's the same photo. These stakes up here were also installed. So the slope, the toe of the slope, it's fairly consistent across the way between this angle and this one. I wanted
Could
to
you hold
catch.
that one, Matt, right there? If you look at the stake going up the side of the right side to the one on the
Can
field,
actually point with the
Oh.
orange
Yeah, I can
button
see
in the
it.
middle.
I can see the stakes. Yeah,
from
right,
that
I'll go
stake
on.
there
Yeah.
down to here, it's more than a foot.
Yeah,
And
but there's.
also, on the other side to the, where I put a silt fence along the boundary there, I left about 6, 7 feet away before I started the pile away from the abutter property. So,
But there is a defined slope that, where
Okay.
you would be able to notice erosion, slumping.
I was thinking in terms of if the buffer is fairly level, then there's less risk of stuff going across the buffer into the wetlands.
it has a slight incline.
Yeah, I mean, there is some, but it is fairly level.
Okay.
And that's what I was trying to capture with, these photos, was the,
I mean, if I might add, leaving a stockpile that's that pronounced with steep slopes and that tall, this is a pile that's 100 feet long, it's 8 to 10 feet tall, it's a substantial pile of soil and stumps and debris that is not stable.
So how long is that, what's that distance I'm looking at right there? 50 feet, 60 feet, 100 feet?
100 feet.
The
100
stockpile
feet.
is 100 feet
100
long.
feet, it's outside the buffer.
It's about,
It's outside the buffer, it's got nothing to do with here.
It's about a foot outside the buffer. You know, I guess we could request that he put some sort of like, you know, silt fence there. You're actually allowed to
Along the 100
request
foot.
outside of 100 if you think that something that's stockpiled like that is gonna affect a resource area. But, you know, you're right, he's 100 feet outside. So if he, something let go, probably be like 10, 20 feet into the buffer, but well outside our 50.
Merrill?
Could we build into what we're asking, that if we look at again in 6 months, just to check on that piece?
Well, we're gonna be
No,
checking
or
on
you
that
know.
anyways, because we
Yeah.
wanna make sure
Okay,
that the
so
restoration.
if we're gonna do that, if we notice something, we can make a request then. I don't think we have to make that determination now if nothing's
But
happening.
point noted.
But we could put it in, in
So Matt,
our
Matt
notes,
will keep an eye on it.
Right.
We're going into the dry summer months, so
and that will
I
handle
don't think we're that
both
concerned
things.
about it.
So I'll work with Matt to get down there and I'll dig up some of that stonework with him and show the bridge.
Okay, we work together, it'll work
Yeah,
out.
that was all open field years ago, but it's sure grown in.
Okay, and you left those for us, okay? Good, we're good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Were there any other comments from the audience or
Commission?
Okay.
Okay.
Jim, you
We're all
have your
set.
hand raised for
Right,
something
before we,
different.
end, 3 items in discussion.
We all set?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good with you.
One is the sycamore cypress plantings.
Plantings, yes.
Right, it's gotta go back on the agenda.
Until they're done.
Right, we should be celebrating its 1 year now, 1 year anniversary. Second item is
Tenacious, but I love it.
Stony Brook Conservation Land.
Sometimes.
Matt and I had discussed this back on last Friday with the upcoming weekend. At that time was supposed to be temperatures in the mid to upper 90s. We were both concerned that there would be partying, barbecuing.
Where is that?
Stony
At the
Brook.
beach, at the beach, the
At the
first
Okay.
beach. So, Matt mentioned it to the Westford Police. I don't know if they went down there or not, but I did on Monday. And I've seen it much worse, but there was, a dozen or 2 beer bottles, dirty diapers, watermelon rind garbage, broken bottles on the beach.
So I was there on Saturday, and I was there on Sunday, okay, because we had a break-in. We
Yeah.
had a break-in up
I
at
heard about that, Matt told
We
me,
had a break-in at the duplex. And unfortunately, Umish was out of town, so the police called me because they didn't know how to call. So I went up, and of course, the only building I didn't have a key to was the duplex.
Yep.
So I couldn't get in. So a guy and a kid tried to break in. They broke a window on the side,
Oh,
and one
God.
of them cut themselves climbing in. And so they had to call 911, so they got caught. But we couldn't get in, and so we eventually solved it. I got a hold of Matt, and we found who was Tom Jackson, who was replacing Umish for the day. So they finally were able to get in, but at least they caught the people. But when I was up there, it was just a total zoo at the day beach. I mean, it was just
That's the beach I
unbelievable.
checked, because that's the closest one to where they
Yeah,
park. Yeah.
Right, and it was just unbelievable. There were so many cars in the parking lot, it was unbelievable, and it's just a mess. And, going forward, we're gonna have to deal with it, and
What do we need?
the police,
Police need to have more of a presence.
yeah, well, there's a couple of things we can do to
Tell me
help
what we
them,
need.
okay? One is, it doesn't specifically say in our rules and regulations that we don't allow, grilling, to bring in small grills.
Make a note.
I've already,
Okay.
I have
Breast fires.
Fires.
yeah, I have an inquiry into town council to make sure that
Okay.
the process,
The way to do
to
this,
get the process to amend the commission's rules and regulations.
and I really want a Mountie. You think I'm kidding? It's another
I
thing
don't
for
know, I don't think
CPC.
you're kidding.
Yeah, but right
I
now,
know.
they're
I
bringing
know.
in grills. They address the beer issue. They get down there and they do check for the beer, but they can't do anything with people with the grills.
Okay,
But, there was an accident somewhere in Massachusetts this past weekend where a child fell on top of a grill pit
oh, God.
and was badly burned. Obviously, they were probably all drinking, so it's something we don't want to allow.
Yeah, we don't want fires in.
At the very least, I think, before any weekend where the weather forecast looks good, we ought to reemphasize the Westford Police to get down there, early afternoon, mid-afternoon kind of thing.
They were there. I mean, they have other stuff to do. They were
Right.
there. They were there. But the fact is, they need specific rules and regulations to enforce so they can issue tickets. And so one of them is to reword our rules and regulations for the camps.
But I hope they're not gonna say, well, we can't enforce anything because it doesn't.
No,
say-
they're just
Okay.
talking about the grills.
All right, good,
Just
because
about
there
the
is,
grills.
alcohol is very clear.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But there's a longer term issue here. And
That's right.
The police brought this up, and at some point, you may have to just allow this for Westford residents to use the beaches.
Oh,
Then how do we check? And,
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
there's
that's
so many-
part of
I
the
know,
details,
but
but.
we need to
there's so many
talk.
problems are gonna be with the details.
Or you only allow Westford residents to park in the lower parking areas.
Yeah.
But then you need someone to
Okay.
check on that too.
Anyway, that's an issue with, that it's gonna,
Again,
it's
I
gonna
think
be
about CPA funds to try something that then the town can take ownership of. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I think we need a bigger discussion.
But according to the police,
Yeah,
90% of the people that are up there are not Western residents.
okay, so you can talk to town council for that too, so we can come forward with a approved piece of recommendation.
I mean, I have people
I deal
call
in a
me.
situation where it's like, town only. And, it's like anything else, issue a sticker. If they don't have a sticker, have them go.
Yeah, but then there's need someone to watch that there's a sticker.
No, but you
Or
still,
go
you-
through-
you- if it's,
Yeah.
if it's, town
Yeah, but you still
only,
need someone to
Westford
check
only,
it.
you still have to check, at least you have the sticker.
Understood.
You can't get a sticker unless you're a town resident,
I-
it's been issued to you.
I understand all of that, but you still need a human being to check on
Well,
this.
the police don't have a problem with checking the stickers.
Okay,
They
okay.
told me that.
Okay, so make a list, let's give it to him, let's get a legal
so-
opinion on it, and let's do something
Yep,
about it.
I'll
Because
dig
we're
out-
so popular, and we're so,
Well, it's the town clerk's probably gonna have to issue the stickers.
that's fine.
Okay,
I work in that office, we'll do whatever it is, I
okay.
give out stickers for trash, I can give out
Stickers
stickers
work
for,
well.
It was just a zoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
It was unbelievable.
So you have a
Given-
problem,
given
we
how bad
solve
you
the
said it
problem.
was, the damage on Monday morning wasn't as bad as it has been in the past.
Yeah.
A couple
But a
of dozen
fire,
beer- couple of
fire
do-
with
couple of
trees
dozen
would be
beer-
even
couple
worse.
of dozen-
The police are going down there and they tell them, they gotta take their trash out, they enforce the no drinking, but they still have their grills there, and I'm sure the ashes from the grills are either getting dumped in the pond.
Last year, they were dumped in the woods. You
Yeah.
could see them, but last
Didn't see
Monday,
anything?
it was, no, I did not.
Okay, so we,
And the beer
have-
bottles
and that's
actually
probably a
migrated
sooner
off,
item
off
than
the beach.
than
They ended
later,
up on,
okay?
they ended up on the trail, to the beach. They only got halfway back to the parking lot.
Well, I was this afternoon, and it was all cleaned up. I don't know who cleaned it up, but it was clean.
And the third item I had was something Noel had raised at the last meeting about the damage to the conservation land at the end of Hemlock Road. I happened to be walking down there this past weekend, I think it was, with my dog, and I ended up coming across 3 young boys, probably 10 to 12 years old or so, with hatchets.
Oh, my God.
They were chopping at the trees at the end of
Oh, my
Hemlock.
God.
So I talked to them a bit. I heard them and saw them ahead of time, so I had my camera turned on, so I actually had pictures of the 3 of them. I gave them to Noelle, and she immediately recognized one of the young men. So I believe, Matt, you.
Yeah, I'm still following up with again.
Okay, Matt's
Friday,
gonna pass that along to
Friday
the-
with the weather, my priority was Stony Brook, making
Yeah.
sure people were heading down there. That's something I will be following up with
Matt's gonna
police
pass along the
and
picture and just
sending
say-
letters to the abutting properties, just
Right.
kindly reminding that, that it is conservation land and, it's,
So
they shouldn't be dumping, they shouldn't be, destroying vegetation.
I don't know if
They
those are
need
the-
to be educating the kids.
Yeah, right. I mean, and so, but also, also
I
asking
educated them a
police,
little bit, but I don't know if it stuck. Anyway, there's damage to the trees down there, from the hatchet, because you give a kid a hatchet and you gotta chop trees.
Oh, God, why would you give a kid a hatchet?
I don't know, somebody gave him a hatchet, 2 hatchets. So, anyway, that's gonna get passed to the Westford Police, and we're just gonna let the neighbors around there know that they should, keep an eye out for it and let us know, let the police department know if they see anybody damaging the trees further. That's it.
Okay,
Okay,
you good? Motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Nice,
Aye.
aye. Quarter after
Please
8.
don't forget your.
Yeah, I have my Mullins,
informational
yes,
packet
I'm
on
good.
Yes. And the
Graniteville Road.
What is that?